What's up, YouTube? How we looking? Coach Max here, back once again in the coach's chair. However, this time we're gonna do things just a little bit differently. See, in all my previous videos, with the exception of my live streams, I do script them out to some degree, so I can give you the impression that I sort of know what I'm talking about. Essentially, it is a clever ruse to make me seem a little bit more knowledgeable than my sub count would imply. For example, in my coach's chair segments, I script them out to the entirety. It is essentially me reading a 3 to 4 page essay, or however many pages it actually turns out to be because I don't really count them, but that's not the point. This time I figured, you know what, let's just go in with a few talking points and a basic outline of where I want to go, and let the stream of consciousness take us wherever it decides to take us. This is totally a planned thing, and not the result of me spending 2 days playing Super Smash Bros. When I should have been working on a rebuild. Anyway, now that the lame excuses are out of the way, let's get to it. First up, the Los Angeles Lakers have a message for the rest of the NBA, for Twitter, for pretty much anybody else who will listen at this point, and that message is, listen all of y'all, it's sabotage. I can't stand it, I know you planned it, I'ma set it straight this Davis Gate. When I first saw this headline on SDC's video from a while back, my reaction was basically, seriously? We're doing this again? For real? I mean, didn't we just hear some reports from the New Orleans Pelicans about how they were trying to take back control of the franchise from outside forces, and that was part of why Dell Demps got fired? It doesn't seem that long ago. Maybe it just kind of seems that way because this has been a really fast month. Maybe it just seems recent to me because I did a video about this last week, but whatever. Either way, if you haven't heard the news at this point, there are several sources high within the Los Angeles Lakers organization, and when I say high within the organization, we're talking as high as owner Jeannie Buss and president of basketball operations Magic Johnson, who believe that other teams are trying to subvert them, go undermine them, go around them, basically just trying to screw them at every possible point. Magic Johnson specifically stated that he believed the Pelicans were not negotiating in good faith with regard to Anthony Davis, and even implied that it was them who were leaking all of those offers that caused all the chemistry problems. Now, I know Twitter was kind of joking about the Pelicans causing the chemistry problems, but for Magic Johnson to go right out and say, hey, we didn't leak those offers, maybe they did to try and mess with us, wow, I can't really believe it. It's been a few days since I saw that video and I'm still kind of in shock. I mean, really, didn't the Pelicans fire Dell Demps for very similar reasons? Now we have Magic Johnson coming out and saying, oh yeah, people trying to play me, and apparently succeeding at this point. I don't get it, really. I mean, I wouldn't really believe it from the Pelicans because, you know, they're a small market, they haven't been super competitive. But the Lakers, on the other hand, of course people are going to be gunning for you. You are one of the most storied franchises in the history of basketball. You are in one of the best markets for basketball. You have one of the best players in LeBron James. As soon as he went there, everyone figured you won free agency and you were going to make the playoffs and you were going to get a championship within the next 3 years. That's kind of what happens when you are the top dog, or you look like you're the top dog. Everyone's going to be coming for your head. I mean, just ask the Golden State Warriors. Everybody's been doing this to them for, what, the last 3 years at this point? And really, my takeaway from this is, why is it that both front offices just seem so reluctant to just kind of take an L? I mean, Dell Demps messed up negotiations. Yeah, that much is a given. But you guys are just kind of overreacting about all of this, and this is just going to blow everything in higher proportion. I mean, is it any wonder why everything seems dysfunctional and you guys are losing? It seems like there's all kinds of other stuff going around. This is part of why, you know, people who go to New York sometimes end up getting caught up in the storm. There's a quote that I'm thinking of here that I can't really place, but, you know, sometimes, I think it goes something like, you know, sometimes when you bring the thunder, you get lost in the eye of the storm. And I think that's kind of what's happening here in Los Angeles. Everybody's just kind of caught up in one thing or another, and everyone's just trying to point blame, whether it's, you know, pointing blame at LeBron for doing this, or pointing blame at Luke Walton for not doing that. Even some of the blame is going to Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, and really, what have they done at this point, other than possibly try and collude and get Anthony Davis over to the Lakers? Basically an agent just being an agent? I mean, come on now. Sometimes you just gotta get right back down to business and do things simply, and I don't know whether it's because you're in LA and you're incapable of doing that, but again, I just wonder, just take an L, learn from it, and move on. yeah, the Anthony Davis situation blew up in everybody's faces, and now it's like you're seeing all these wolves banging at your heels and thinking that the best way to drive them off is to plant a whole bunch of landmines, then lose the map of where you placed said landmines, and hope that the wolves get blown up before you blow yourself up somehow. I mean, yeah, it might work, but it's kind of an extreme solution, and everyone's gonna look at you like you're kind of cuckoo bananas, and it wouldn't be entirely without justification. I think I'm kind of going off the rails with this point. Let's move on to the next one. In lighter, better news, Chiquita Evans becomes the first woman in the NBA 2K League, and that's a pretty good story, and I don't say that ironically. Now, initially, I was hesitant to report on this because, well, a lot of reasons. I'm a guy, I'm not that good at NBA 2K, I haven't really been following the NBA 2K League or esports in general outside of the occasional article about Overwatch or League of Legends. But it is a good story, especially in this day and age, and the mainstream media has picked up on it, so it's definitely worth talking about. Especially because, if we're being completely honest, even though I do think it's good, I am of two minds on this. First, the good. I'm very glad that the NBA and 2K have taken this step. Anything that moves towards a more diverse, more meritocracy-based system is one that I'm very much in favor of. And, the fact that she is able to make it will probably open the door for other gamers out there, because I know there are plenty of really talented NBA 2K players who are female. I mean, I haven't played with them myself because again, not that good at the game. I'm not braving that, wild frontier as it is. But I know they're out there, and I would like to think that the fact that a woman has finally made it will probably give them some motivation to come out. Maybe we'll see more women in the draft next year. Also, I'm just kind of glad that she was picked up by Warriors Gaming Squad because, hey, I am a Warriors fan. It's one thing I'm not going to apologize for, ever. But as I said, I am of two minds on this subject, and really, part of that kind of boils down to the coverage, because most of the coverage does, point out that this is groundbreaking, that Adam Silver and NBA 2K were trying to go in this direction. But there were a couple of points that were touched on very heavily in all the reports that I saw on this. One, that out of the, I forget exactly how many, it was like 196, I think? Yeah, someone correct me on this, but anyway, out of the, over 100, we'll go with that, over 100 people who were in the draft, there were only 2 who were women. So that's not a huge thing. I mean, I don't know if that actually lines up with the demographics of who's playing 2K or not, but, 2 is not very good, and the fact that only 1 made it, I'm a little worried that she may become reduced to, I wouldn't say token status, but it might make her more of a talking point rather than a good, awesome player in her own right. And the other thing is that all of these articles do mention that in the process of her getting to the league, she had to deal with sexism and misogyny. And I just hate the fact that that is still a problem here in 2019, because it's not a new thing. It hasn't been a new thing for a while. And I hate the fact that it is still a problem. Now, keep in mind, I don't say this lightly. I'm not the kind of person who says, I hate this thing or I hate this person. I hate that gaming is still toxic in many ways. And I admit, I kind of feel a little bit ashamed about that sometimes. I mean, I kind of laugh when people troll. I laugh when, people are on the receiving ends of pranks sometimes. Mostly because I'm assuming that it is good fun. But some of the things that I have seen women have to put up with in gaming, especially women putting up with them in real life, it's really kind of sad. Especially considering Chiquita Evans admitted that she tried to go for the league in last year in its first season, and because she kept getting frozen out, not just, comments, but people were not passing her the freaking ball, she decided, I can't deal with this, and pulled out. And the fact that, other people can drive someone to do that is just horrible to me. And that's one of the things I'm worried about, that, everything that Chiquita Evans does in the league is going to be put under a microscope, and even possibly filtered under the lens of, well, she's a woman. If she does good, hey, it's going to be a breakthrough because she was a woman and she was a trailblazer. And if she doesn't do good, that someone's going to come out and say, well, this is why women shouldn't be in the league and all that stuff. But, I kind of want to go ahead and go away from that particular side of the argument to a different one. And that's one of the things that I was curious about and why I actually personally thought it would be a little bit longer before the 2K League saw women. Now, all of these teams live in the same house. It's not like they're commuting from other places. So I'm kind of personally wondering how a woman is going to integrate into an environment that's still very male dominant. Now, Chiquita Evans, was a semi-professional player, played in college, so I would assume that she's at least used to being one of the guys in some respect. Now, granted, I don't know her personally. I don't know. All I know is what I've seen in the articles, which admittedly is not a whole lot. I'm just making a lot of guesses here. But I'm kind of wondering how a woman will actually integrate in that environment, especially considering, there's going to be some people who are not going to be happy with her. That's another reason why I'm glad that she was picked up by Warriors Gaming Squad, because I would like to think that the Warriors, I wouldn't say are more enlightened, but probably a little bit more sensitive, especially considering, it's here in the Bay Area, as opposed to certain other environments which may not be as progressive. So I'm going to be kind of interested to see how things play out, and I do sincerely hope that Chiquita Evans does well. Not just because she's a woman and because that might open the door for more diversity or what have you. I just hope she does good, because this is something that she has worked really hard to achieve, and that work deserves to be rewarded with more than just, hey, I made it. If she makes an impact, there's probably going to be nobody happier than her. What am I saying here? Of course I'm going to be happy, but she's the one who actually did the hard work. She's the one who deserves all the happiness. Yeah, I think that kind of covers the point and why I'm of two minds in there. It's probably going to be a very good incentive for me to follow the NBA 2K League, and I'd like to see exactly if the NBA 2K League's viewership or whatever kind of rating metrics they use go up because she's in there now. It's going to be worth revisiting later on, I think. Anyway, let's move on to the last point. The last thing I wanted to talk about today is the announcement that you've probably heard recently, that being that the Los Angeles Lakers are on the verge of conceding the season and are considering putting LeBron James on a minutes restriction to finish things out. The general consensus among Laker fans and LeBron fans that I know is that this is kind of sad to see, kind of ruins their playoff hopes, but ultimately it's understandable and probably better in the long run, especially considering LeBron James did have that groin injury earlier this year. But the interesting thing is, up until that announcement, almost every one of them believed that the Lakers were going to sneak into the playoffs somehow, whether because LeBron decided to carry the team, or Brandon Ingram really at this point, or the Spurs just completely fell off, which, could happen. I don't think it's likely though. And either way, they kind of believed that when everything ended, the Lakers would be in the 7th or 8th seed, which incidentally is about where I predicted they would have ended up at the beginning of the season. Honestly, I figured the Warriors, the Rockets, and the Thunder were just way better teams. The Jazz and the Spurs also are. The Blazers had Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, and I figured that could carry them to a few extra wins. And then, the Pelicans had Anthony Davis. Maybe the Timberwolves would have done something. Maybe the Nuggets would have done something. But I figured one of them would have ended up 7, and LeBron would be 8. I definitely didn't predict the Nuggets shooting into the stratosphere or the Kings doing as well as they did, which is also kind of good to see. But we're going aside from the point. Now, I've already talked at length about the problems with the Lakers organization at this point, and I think that's been a very significant contributing factor as to why everything is going the way it is. But, the blame is generally kind of split between LeBron and the front office. If there was an other section of the pie chart, I figured Luke Walton might get it, or, according to Twitter, maybe Rich Paul. Who knows? But the general theory that's being discussed now is how this affects LeBron's legacy. I mean, he has made the playoffs the last 13 or 14 seasons. I honestly can't remember the count. But not only is he not going to make the finals at this rate, he's not even going to make the playoffs, and that's kind of a huge fall. I mean, nobody's going to sit there and think that, this team is better than LeBron's Cavaliers team that he took to the finals or won a championship with. I mean, I certainly don't think it is. I mean, they're more talented, they're more athletic, but, obviously they're not getting things done, and who knows why that is. Now, honestly, a lot of talk is going about how much this would affect LeBron's legacy, and honestly, I don't think it actually will. I mean, it's not going to damage things any more than missing the finals or making the finals but losing would, but it probably would still see a little bit of damage. Ultimately, I don't think it's a great thing. I definitely don't think it's great for the league because now, hey, one of their best players is probably going to be sitting a few games out. And this is the sort of thing that's going to probably make Adam Silver decide, hey, you know, those nice little rules that we had for resting, we're going to make them a little bit more draconian. But ultimately, thinking as a GM, thinking as a coach, this is probably kind of the move I would make. You know, if we're not going to make the playoffs, there's no sense to play like we're going to go for the playoffs. So let's let the young guys get a little bit more game time in there. You know, let's get Josh Hart in there more. Let's see if Brandon Ingram can carry the team more. What other young guys do they have? Do they still have Mo Wagner? I can't remember if they traded him or not. I mean, they did kind of trade. You know, this would have been great for Ivica Zubac, but they traded him. So it's really kind of a sad situation, and it's one that everyone's going to have a lot of mixed thoughts on. I know my thoughts are definitely somewhat mixed, even though I can pretty much explain them somewhat. If you call this, you know, rambling stream of consciousness a good explanation for things. But ultimately, yeah, I probably would have done the same thing. I think a lot of people were saying, hey, shut down LeBron, just shut him down entirely, just let him sit out the rest of the season. But, you know, you don't want to do that to LeBron. That's just, you know, going out in kind of a bad way. Interestingly enough, while I'm talking about this, it just occurred to me that, you know, we are kind of seeing the end of some careers from that draft. You know, this is Dwayne Wade's last season. This may have been Carmelo Anthony's last season, and yeah, if you want to talk about going out on a really tragic note, that is probably one of the most tragic, especially for someone as good as Carmelo Anthony was. But yeah, I mean, at first when I started talking about this, I figured I was going to end up going a bit longer like I did with the last two topics. But ultimately, it kind of is what it is, and there really isn't anything more that can be said. I mean, the Lakers didn't get it done. Now let's figure out how they're going to get it done and what they're going to get it done with. I'm sure everyone's figuring they're going to bank on free agency at this point, and really that's probably a good strategy to take. But we'll see how it plays out. There was an interesting thing on Twitter that I did see, though, and it was basically Zion Williamson in a Lakers jersey, considering, you know, the Lakers missed the playoffs and somehow end up with the number 2 pick and pick somebody really good. I mean, they picked D'Angelo Russell, who's doing great. They picked Brandon Ingram, who's doing great. Lonzo Ball could be great. I don't know. Oh, it's kind of interesting when you consider it that out of the draft picks, out of the 3 number 2 draft picks that they got, Lonzo Ball's the one who's doing the worst, yet he came in with the most hype, I think. But again, we're kind of going off topic here. But yeah, on that note, let's go ahead and bring it in. I've talked at you guys long enough. I hope you kind of like this unscripted format. It's a little bit of something different that I'm trying at this point. Maybe we'll bring it back, maybe I won't. I don't know. If you did like this, though, definitely let me know in the comments section, because I would love your thoughts on if this could be something that you would like to listen to moving forward, as opposed to, you know, something scripted, something rehearsed, something, you know, that sounds a little bit more like an academic presentation, just kind of me going on a stream of consciousness and kind of going off with this. If you do like the stream of consciousness style, then I would definitely recommend checking out my live stream. I do the live stream Kingdom Hearts 3 on weekends, and that should be the case this weekend. There is a possibility that I may be going out of town for Saturday night. If that is the case, I will let you know on Twitter. You can follow me there at Mr. Coach Max. I also probably put it in my discussion tab as well here. If I do miss on Saturday, I should still be streaming on Sunday, but don't quote me on that. My schedule is kind of wacky at this point. Hopefully I'll be able to lock it down and get some more things there. But yeah, I think I covered everything. I did mention leaving a comment. Oh, also definitely, if you like this, definitely hit that like button, because that definitely lets me know that you like it. And if you really want to let me know and really want to support me, subscribe to the channel. I do NBA 2K and NBA related content like this on Fridays, and I live stream Kingdom Hearts 3 on the weekends, as I mentioned before. Yeah, so you can tell I definitely did not rehearse that outro, considering it went kind of all over the place. But you know what? That's the name of the game for this video. That's all for now. Until next time, take care, y'all.